Hi traders, today I've got a really insightful interview for you today. We talked to No Nonsense Forex, or VP as some of you may know him as. He has been a professional trader since 2014, has been trading with a prop firm and gives us some really good insights into the psychology around trading and how to level up your mindset if you're going to be successful in this. So stay tuned, enjoy this video, and I'll catch you at the end. So do you think the technologies, kind of technology in Forex has advanced a lot? So I guess algorithms and things like that can help with that consistency. I mean, my system is almost semi-automated, so I ultimately have to press the button. But my strategy is in place. I have little alerts go off, things like that. Do you think that really helps somebody to can gain that sort of consistency in their strategy?
Automation can mitigate a lot of this, yeah. Oddly enough, I talk to people because I've had relationships with people from other prop firms because they're always trying to have me endorse them. And I even reach out to them sometimes. I say, hey, you have discretionary traders, you have automated traders. Does one perform better than the other? And the answer is almost always the same. They said, yeah, it's about equal. You know, I have
Right.
really good traders that do one. I have really good automated traders. I have really good discretionary traders. I have really terrible automated traders. I have really terrible discretionary traders.
Right.
So, my channel is set up for both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when it comes to psychology, I think if you can be a discretionary trader that has your psychology down, you're you're going to be a bit more flexible
Yeah.
and a bit more fluid and agile than somebody who automates. So I think there's a higher ceiling with the discretionary crowd who wants to get their psychology locked down the right way. But if you don't and you want to go the automation route, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either.
Yeah. Okay. Where would somebody get started on the automation route? Is there are there things out there that can already be automated? Do you have anything that's a system that that's I don't know if you do or not. Tell me if I'm wrong. If you have an automated system that you kind of show people.
No, I'm a terrible guy to ask because I'm 100% discretionary.
Oh, okay.
I've always been. I will say there is an MT4 strategy tester
Yeah.
where you can take completely put together algorithms and run them through the tester to
Hmm.
see how they actually perform. Very cool. I think it's been around a long time. I didn't even realize it was there.
Yeah.
So that's something I kind of wish I knew about before because, like I said, I do everything by hand. I'm sure time wise that would have helped. So look into that. I'm sure there's videos on how to use that. I have a blog. I can actually give it to you if you want.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. I'll leave
It's
it
a,
in the comment section.
it's a link to my automation blog that has an embedded video on how to use the MT4 strategy tester.
Oh, awesome.
So people can just go straight to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess without knowing much about automation myself, I would say that's a really good place to start because at least you can really cut down the time on testing a lot of these systems. Because I'm gonna tell you, when you have 5 or 6 pieces of an algorithm, you're testing them all by hand and how they work with each other. It does take a while. So
Yeah.
cut down on that if you can.
Yeah. But I imagine that's also a thought-provoking sort of system, in terms of you may be writing out something and then you go, right, okay, well, because I've been writing this for so many days, weeks, you notice those little changes maybe. Whereas if you're doing it on a computer, then you may not notice that.
Yeah, that is an advantage, but a disadvantage is you have to make sure you're not lying to yourself. Like
Right.
sometimes you'll see a losing trade, and in your mind you'll have this inner monologue to where to say, "Oh, I wouldn't have taken that trade because of X, Y, and Z." No,
Right.
no, no, you absolutely would have taken that trade in
Yeah.
real time. We don't have the benefit of hindsight when we're actually trading. So
Mm.
if this is another psychological thing I've talked about in the past too. So if you can make sure you're not doing that, then yeah, there are little nuances you pick up doing everything by hand. I realize that's really unpopular, especially nowadays. But yeah, that's a good point. I have noticed little things that have added to my system over time, just in the back testing process alone.
Yeah. How does somebody stop lying to themselves, I guess, in these type of situations? Is it the wanting to always be right?
I don't know if it's ego or excitement. I don't know, dude. uh, all I do know is if you want your system to work well, you have to let it does. Yeah, you have to let it do what it does.
Yeah.
Um, and the more you jump in and sabotage yourself, the worst things are going to get. You know, every once in a while you're going to jump in and sabotage things, and it's going to work. And that's the worst thing that can happen, because then it justifies you jumping in and sabotaging things. And I said, all this sounds absurd to a new trader, but I'm telling you, it's I've had. Can I curse on your podcast?
Yeah, of course you can.
All right. I have three very simple rules when it comes to trading psychology. It's trade your system, stay the fuck out of the way, repeat. And that's all you have to do. It's so easy, but it's not, because we always want to jump in, whether it comes to the entries, especially when it comes to the management of trades. We are our own worst enemy. And so I have entire series dedicated to preventing that the best we can.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome, and I think we'll definitely point people in the direction of the podcast in the description, because I think a lot of people will get a lot of sort of good information, and like you said before, when we had a conversation before, where you were saying a lot of people go back and revisit those and re-listen to them to kind of enforce those beliefs and ideas. I think that's definitely something that people should be taking on. I wanted to ask a quick question about fundamentals. Then I know you said something about when you're using the daily chart, you don't necessarily need to have that sort of fundamental. Do you not look at the fundamental scope of the markets, or
no? Now, I want to throw this out there first. There are, large event like interest rates, NFPs, things like that you cannot ignore. And I have videos on how to deal with those events when they come up.
Right.
But most of it, no. This is one of those things I think we were taught that was incorrect. I think fundamentals are mostly useful for people who are very long-term in the Forex world. Either people who have international businesses, either, you're going the George Soros route and you're making very long-term bets on a certain currency. I think they're only good for those people. For your traders who are trading things daily, or God forbid intraday, it's completely useless. It's only there to mess you up. If you don't think this at first, but then start trading for 3 weeks, and then you see it right away. You're like, God, it would just be so much better if these things didn't exist. And you're right, it wouldn't. And you can avoid most of it by trading the daily chart, because if a smaller piece of news comes in and takes price one way, chances are it's going to correct itself and become more technically correct as the day progresses. So, if you're trading on the daily chart and you're putting your stops where you would normally put them on a daily chart, which is going to be deeper than you would intraday, then you allow the market to do this without getting stopped out more times than not. And that's a great thing. I couldn't imagine a world where I was forced to put technicals and fundamentals and sentiment together, especially when those last two can't be measured. And they're so random, and they work against you more than they work for you. Right. But it's so weird to tell somebody who's been told one thing the entire time that they've been taught, and say, no, you actually should do the opposite. No, don't use those support and resistance lines or those trend lines. Do this instead. I get it. It's a tough jump. I get a lot of pushback. I get a lot of vitriol, just because I'm not always kind about how I say it, because look, I got to get you from one thing you've been taught your entire life over to something completely different. I cannot be a sweetheart about it. It's not going to work. I have to really say, hey, look, I got to break all these false beliefs down first before I take you somewhere else. And so that's the route we go on the channel.
Okay, so you're quite blunt with people to say you're kind of wasting your time with that.
Yeah, and nobody likes some know-it-all blunt person coming in and telling them they're doing everything wrong. Again, this is an ego game at the end of the day. Most traders are male, and we like to think that we do things really, really well, especially if we've dedicated 3-4 years to it. I can understand how they might not like somebody coming in and telling them to do things completely different and not doing it in a very kind manner. But I just saw no other way,
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, leave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to see some more of our Forex trading content. And I'll speak to you in the next video.